Today, we find out if Beechworth is worth the hype. I'm Jason.
And I'm Trent, and we're here on an unfiltered, unapologetically unprofessional wine journey. We have a saying here, Jace.
Our saying here is drink more, try more, learn more. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. So before we jump into Beechworth, I thought I'd share some of my thoughts of the week.
Yes, what is it, Jace?
And I've been thinking of if the size really matter.
Of course it does. Well, that's what the wife said.
I'm not talking about that size, Trent. I'm talking about the size of the wine bottle.
Oh, okay, yeah.
In our trip to South Australia, that's what you meant. Yeah. We're all confident with our size. When we went to South Australia, we visited Torbreck and we had the opportunity to carry a very large format bottle of wine. I think it was the Laird as well. I think it was about
It was
4.5 liters that we carried.
Yeah.
And I've never seen that before. To be honest, I've only known of three sizes.
Yeah.
The regular size, the Magnum, 1.5 liters, and then half the regular size. Which is about 330 mils.
Why don't they just call it small, medium, and large, like T-shirts?
It'd make it easier.
I know.
But there's actually 12 sizes.
Oh, damn it.
Did you? I didn't know this. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
There's a crap load. And I was curious, what's the point? Apparently, it's about ceremony and being able to share more. But I also think it's about trying to show off that you're a legend because you got quite a large bottle of wine.
It is. Why, did you try and show off with your big bottle?
I pulled out my bottle and my wife said, no, that's not big enough. But that's a different story and a different podcast. But I did want to share what I found out about these bottles and if it actually really matters. So like I said, there are 12 formats.
Yeah.
The smallest format is actually 188 milliliters and it's a piccolo, single serve.
Yeah, makes sense.
I didn't know that. If you go a bit higher than the Magnums, there's a few. There's a few that I wanted to share. The one we were carrying, 4.5 liters, was called a Jarroa Bomb.
Jarroa Bomb, yeah.
Jarroa Bomb, quite large. You go to a 12 liter, it's called a Balthasar. And then the largest is an 18 liter called Solomon.
Wow, King Solomon.
King Solomon. And a lot of these actually have some historic or religious...
Balthazar's isn't like the devil or something like that, the devil's mate or something?
Some historic reference to it. But that's where it all comes from. But I'm curious, does it matter or is it just someone that wants to show off or share a lot of wine? And apparently it does matter.
It does matter, okay.
The bottles that are bigger than a Magnum, so Magnum and higher...
Yeah.
They will have a higher wine to oxygen ratio in the bottle.
Yeah.
And so the wines are not aging as quickly as they would. The other thing is the bigger the bottles, typically the bigger the actual wine glass, the bottle itself, the encasing around it, which is good for temperature.
Yeah.
So all of these theoretically mean that the quality and the aging process is going to be better than smaller format bottles. But there's another argument to that besides the price, because of that, they're actually a more premium price. People want more and they're quite rare.
Is it? So like double the size is double the price?
I don't know if that's the ratio, but it's definitely higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never even owned a Magnum, to be honest.
But I've eaten a Magnum though.
They are good. Almond Magnum. Almond Magnum is the way to go. But Jancis Robinson, she's always got some good points.
Yeah.
Just reading her arguments about it, she agrees, and she's done a couple of tests that actually the bigger bottle formats, they probably are better in quality. She tried a few versus the small format. But she also said, what's wrong with speeding up the aging process? Why do you want to wait years and years to open up the wine?
Yeah.
If it speeds up, that means you can drink it quicker. So
exactly.
Nothing wrong with that. The other thing she says, which is always an important point, is usually the large format bottles have a cork on the top. And imagine opening up the bottle with all of this wine, you've paid so much money for it, and it's corked. All of the oxidation's gone through it. It's wrecked it. What a waste.
You want to diversify your risk, right?
You're all about risk management. Go for the smaller ones.
Correct, yeah. A lot of small ones is better, is it?
Well, again, that's what my wife says. But
a lot of small ones.
But so I can't recover from that. So that's what we found out. There's 12 large format bottles. Conceptually, it makes sense. The quality is actually going to be better. like Jancis says, is it worth the wait? Stick to the regular ones, I say.
I think the largest I'll ever go for is probably the Magnum.
Yep.
But anything larger than that, I don't know. I don't have that many friends.
Yeah.
So I don't know, open it up and either you're drinking a lot of that alcohol or...
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
It's not very convenient.
Yeah.
Where do you store it? I don't have my cellar yet. Yeah.
Maybe it's like that giant wine fridge for your giant bottles.
Yes. the special format fridge.
I know.
So that was what I was thinking about, Trent. Well, what were you thinking about?
What was I thinking about? So I sent you the link before. I was talking about how there's not many Coopers left in Australia anymore. There's only really just one winery that actually cooper their own barrels and also create their own wines, and that's Yalumba in South Australia. So it got me thinking about oak. And I know that we were always talking about oak in all the tastings, and Yangari started to ask a bit more about oak and the different type versus like the amphoras that they're using there. So I thought I would try to demystify oak.
Yes.
In a sense, but there's so much complexity to it. So
before you get into that, the cooper, if I recall, is the person that's putting the oak barrels together. Is that right?
Together.
Yeah, okay.
The Cooper Trooper, as I call it.
That sounds like Mario Brothers, but I didn't know that. Is that an industry term as well?
As we say in the industry. Yeah. Okay. So I thought I'm going to try and put it in kind of how would I structure in a kind of business speak that I talk about the what. What does it do? Okay, so it provides texture, flavor, tannins, and also adds a bit more price onto the wine as well. So first, we have texture, provides micro-oxygenation. So when you think about oak, has little small holes there that's quite porous and lets a bit of oxygen in that helps kind of mellow out that wine. Yeah. So it helps develop, mature, but in a kind of a slow, kind of controlled fashion. Makes it smoother, less astringent, balances out the acidity and also the bitterness within the wine. Next is flavor. So we'll get to the how later on, but the flavors that it could impart onto the wine could be hazelnut, caramel, vanilla, smoke, coconut, coffee, spice, and cocoa. So sometimes we see those hints of cocoa or spice that comes from generally the oak. Next is tannins. So there's the tannins you get from the grape skins, but you also have tannins from the oak as well. As you integrate them, it helps smoothen out those kind of harsher tannins from the grape skin. So it does that job as well. And then price. So you only can create 2 oak barrels from any oak tree.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay.
And it takes about several decades, about 70 years to actually grow an oak tree for maturation to then create the oak barrel. So, in terms of oak barrels and the cost, it ranges from $600 to $1,200 a barrel. And think about how that adds onto the price of a bottle. I think I was seeing about, $5 or $6 onto each bottle that uses that kind of oak. So it can vary, but you can imagine how, yes, it does a lot, but also there's also a price that comes with it as well. Okay, so that's the what. Now I'm going to talk about the how. So how does it actually do all those magical things to our wines? So the type of oak. So there's 2 main types of oak, which is American and also French. So American, just generalizing, is a bit bigger, bolder, flavors of vanilla, coconut, and dill, whereas the French one's a bit more delicate, a bit more subtle, spice, hazelnut, bit tighter in terms of what it adds to the wine as well.
What do you mean tighter? What does the tightness do?
Yeah, so it when I think about tightness, a bit more, it's finer tannins, it's a bit more kind of concentrated, right, rather than looser and bigger in the American type of oak. And size, so bigger the barrel creates more wine to barrel surface area. Yeah. So therefore it's less interaction between the oak and the wine. Yeah. Whereas if it's smaller barrel, there's greater surface area between wine and oak, and therefore imparts a bit more of those flavors or aromas or etc. to the wine. Yeah. So smaller adds more, larger adds less. Yeah. Okay. Next one's new or old. So new oak, it's like a fresh new car, right? It's a lot stronger in terms of the smell of new oak compared to something that's old. And you often see that in the descriptors, right? And saying, it's through new oak or old oak for 24 months. Some people might want to have a bit more oak flavor, so they use new oaks. into the maturation process, or sometimes you use old oak for one to let the fruit kind of sing for itself and doesn't want to overwhelm the flavors of the fruit with new oak. So you see that.
Do they? I think I've seen this. I've seen it where they put a percentage description of like 30%
correct
American oak, new oak versus X percentage French oak. So does that mean they let it ferment in both the?
No, I don't know for sure, but my guess is that they move it into one barrel for new oak, then they move into the seasoned barrel.
Yeah. Okay.
After a while as well.
Yep.
So they kind of transfer that wine. So you go for a bit of the new, a bit of the old, and just like when we had like the Penfolds, right? They use like the old barrels from the Grange for the 389. So after the new, have the old, and then they put the wine into that one as well. So again, they kind of reuse it depending on what you're trying to get out of the barrels in terms of how what the wine they want to create. The time, obviously, the longer you leave it, it's just like a tea bag in tea. You know, the longer you leave it, the stronger it is. The less you leave it, the more subtle it is as well. So that's time. And the last one I just want to touch on is toast levels as well. So sometimes if you see awesome video on them creating the barrels, and all they put like this kind of like this fire inside the barrels, give a bit of toastiness inside, and it can add, say, American oak, a bit of that kind of butterscotch kind of smells, aromas towards the wine. Whereas in French oak, it adds a bit more of that kind of smoke to the wine. So again, the toast level is also quite important as well. And you've seen with some of the wineries that we've been to where they've actually tried different coopers to see the different type of flavors. It could be in France and there could be like 5 different coopers. And you try how it interacts with the wine or what kind of harmonizes and works best. So there's a lot of mix and match and trial and error in terms of how it adds towards the wine. Any thoughts from you on the oak?
A couple of things. I didn't realize you could only get 2 barrels out of a tree. So a tree must be pretty tiny in my mind. Yeah. But to me, the rarity of that skill set for the coopers, like there's only one organization that's doing it. I don't get that, because that's not going to go away in the wine industry, right? As there's more wineries and more vineyards, why aren't there more coopers? I think that's a rare trade that people need to get into. Yeah,
I don't know whether it's probably... I don't know whether it's cheaper to kind of just get it done in France or America and send it across. But in terms of the art, in Australia, it's a dying trade. And, listening to the article, there's no actual trade or a course you actually do around barrel making or cooper making. It's about doing woodwork and I think metalworks or something like that to kind of come together. Yeah. Yeah, if you're looking to get into the wine industry, I reckon that's a good way to give it a crack and bolster that up. Yeah. But I often hear about the use of oak in wines, and I've never actually understood it. But you've explained it really well. Thank you. Awesome, cool. And then it probably then touches on our next part, which is around the episode itself. And today we're going to be talking about Beechworth. So I mentioned it to you a couple of times that you got to go, but you couldn't make it last time to Beechworth. But there was an article that I saw that kind of sums it up quite well. And it was, Beechworth is the best region you've never heard of. Yeah, that sums it up really well. Because, for me, it's like, I never really heard of Beechworth. And it was only recently kind of getting into the podcast that I knew of one thing on Beechworth. Actually, 2 things. One is Beechworth honey that I see at the supermarkets, and second one is around the Giaconda Chardonnay. That's the only way I heard of Beechworth. Yeah. So I think that kind of resonated to me. It's this kind of small area that seems to be doing some really fantastic things, and I was kind of keen to uncover it. So I went there over the Christmas break, and these are some of the things that I found out. So one is the town is a must visit. I told you before that it's only about 6 hours from Sydney. And it's about 3 hours. You sent that message to me multiple times. 3 hours from Melbourne, 6 hours from Sydney. It's like a bit further than going up to Coffs Harbour or something like that. So it's not that far. And it's a great little town to visit as well. It's only got 3,290 people. So it's still relatively small. And the thing that kind of stood out to me was that it's still quite small. It's quaint. It's warm. It's unpretentious. It's got, a lot of the small little cafes and restaurants. It's got a little cordial shop that does milkshakes. Beechworth Bakery, right? Beechworth Bakery as well. That's the other thing people talk about. So it's got this really kind of old school charm, to it that for me, it's like it was great to visit, and it's another place that I'll probably visit again. So do go there.
Yeah, I had a bit of FOMO when you were talking about it because I was like, oh my gosh, I really missed out.
Yeah. So when I talk about Beechworth, I think that also comes across into the wines as well. Like, it's not those kind of posh, grand type of chateaus that you will go to. It's that kind of warm, unpretentiousness, simplicity of it all. And that really comes across in the wines and the wineries that we came across. So the ones that, the couple that we're going to look at today is Sorrenberg and Fighting Gully Road. It's just like, it's like any old person you see across the street, and the unassuming nature that you kind of go across these wineries. There's only just one person there, husband and wife, or just the one guy, the one-man band that's looking after from the wines to the winemaking to the marketing. It's just that kind of simplicity of it that makes it so beautiful in itself. So, but we'll taste the wines a bit later. But before we get to that, just a bit of history on Beechworth. So, first vines, 1856, started. Phylloxera hit, there's a bit of a lull, and then really only around 40 to 50 years ago where it was started to become a bit more prominent.
Yeah.
And just to give you an idea of that one, like Gioconda only started in 1980.
Wow.
Pennyweight, 1982, Sorrenberg, 1984, and Fighting Gully Road in the 1990s. So really only 40 to 50 years ago where these people started to, plant their vines and started to create the wines from the area. So it's relatively new compared to like the Barossa.
Yep.
And it only got its own GI or geographical indication, which is like its own appellation, in 2000. So 24 years ago. It's also the smallest wine region in Australia, comprising about 30 producers and 120 hectares under vines. So really, really small. And one of the things that you'll notice, so as you kind of drive up there, you go up the mountain and it's sitting on top of a plateau. So you kind of go up, and it's noticeably cooler there as well. So on the plateau, it ranges between like 300 meters to 1,000 meters, kind of going up. And there's two main types of soils. One is a granite-based soil, which is where the Gioconda and the Sorrenbergs are based on. It's a bit more aromatic, a bit more floral in terms of the wines, a bit more perfume in terms of the wines we're going to try, which is the classic Sorrenberg Chardonnay today. And then if you go down a bit more, you get to a different area. It does clay rock type of soils, which are a bit more gruntier and kind of lends itself towards Italian varietals, such as a Sangiovese, some Sanjo,
industry,
Nebbiolo, Alanico, and Fiano type of wines. They're very Italian type of varietals. And we see that in the Fighting Gully Road Sangiovese a bit later. I thought we'll look at the Sorrenberg and the Fighting Gully Road, one looking at the kind of granite-based soils, the Chardonnay, and one kind of looking at the Sangiovese of the kind of clay rock type of soils. So maybe we'll start with
the
Chardonnay first. So I'll let you try.
Yeah. I might show it to the screen. So this is the 2022 Sorrenberg Chardonnay. And since you visited and had a chat to quite a few people, there is a lot of hype about this particular Chardonnay. So it's known to be one of the best in Australia.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be considered a cult wine. I know Gioconda is one of the kind of biggest kind of cult wines. I think Sorrenberg's up there.
Yeah.
And even just in a recent chat that we had Merrick Watts on, right? He said that Sorrenberg Chardonnay, I could bathe in it, is what he said.
Yeah. It's that good.
It's that good. So do try a bit while I kind of talk through a bit more of it as well. So in terms of Sorrenberg Chardonnay, again, the one thing that really shone out is, Jan and Barry Morey, husband and wife team, unpretentious, unassuming place. You go into the cellar. It's just like any old kind of underground cellar that you would go to, just a few barrels lying around. In terms of how they were like kind of blending the wines, just this little table there. And then the tasting area is just this metal trolley that she kind of pushed out that we're trying, the Syrahs. We didn't have the Chardonnay that day, the Cabernet Sauvignons as well. And it's just close, warm. It's like you're going to your mum and dad's place to have some wines. So that really kind of stood out. I love the label as well of the Sorrenberg. Very kind of German influence. It comes from German roots in the Moselle area. The one thing they also do there is the Gamay. That's also maybe quite special that I couldn't buy yet. Maybe for next vintage we could try that. But I don't know. Have you tried the Chardonnay, and what are you thinking about it at the moment?
The first thing that I experienced from it was actually the balance. This is it's a really good wine, but it's very well integrated. The balance overall is fantastic. There's nothing jutting out too much. Everything works well together. And then, like, if we think about Chardonnays and that oak influence that you were talking about earlier, it's not too pronounced. It's not too oaky. It's not too buttery. It's quite restrained from that sense. But
It actually feels a bit, I know you may haven't had it. It feels almost like a French style of Chardonnay. It has a kind of rounded body to it. Or the kind of...
that mouthfeel is
it's so much more complex than some of the other Chardonnays we had before. It's a lot more, viscous or, it has that kind of texture to it that, I know, makes it quite special. So I'll just tell you a bit about this Chardonnay. 100% barrel fermented in French oak. 25 to 30% of this being new oak. So to the point before, 30% new oak. Natural yeast fermentation. It's gone through full malolactic fermentation. So it's kind of changing it from the, is it malic acids to the lactic acids to make it more creamier. Yep. It's got extended lees contact for 10 months. With weekly stirring, with a further 8 months in barrel maturation. So mineral handling, filtration ensures maximum flavor retained. So you can get that as well with that kind of, I don't know, is it that kind of yeastiness as well? And the leaves are kind of coming through. That adds a bit more of those kind of layers of complexity. But it's definitely, I know, again, I went there, but I never got to try the Chardonnay. But now trying the Chardonnay now, it's really sings out and makes me understand, I know why this is so special.
It's on the nose. I'm trying to get the scent, and it's got this mix of honey and dew. But then there's this kind of like a savory. I was thinking like it reminds me of MSG. It's not in a bad thing, but like that savory umami kind of flavor. But you said it's on the lees, and it's probably that yeastiness that I can get through that's coming out.
That really brings out that length of it as well.
Oh, the finish is
it's that kind of rounded, bready, yeasty, but it has those kind of brightness of the kind of melons and the citrus come through as well. And it's just feels, again, a good wine's always a balanced wine, and it feels like it's just that balance, and then nothing that's kind of protruding out. It's just measured, and it has that length to it as well.
But I don't know if I'm describing this right. Like, it feels powerful, but constrained at the same time. Yes. Elegant and powerful. Yeah. I don't know if you can get the two
Velvet
together.
Glove, right?
Maybe that's what it is. But there's so much that's going on, but it's not overpowering my mouth or my palate.
Yeah.
That's magic.
That's restraint.
How do you do that? Wow.
Yeah. So, I love that. Should we give it a mark now, or?
Yeah, let's give it a mark now, because I really like that. I'd give that a 9 out of 10 because there's so much going on, yet it's so balanced and it's so restrained. I'm still thinking about it. What about you?
You took the words right out of my mouth. So I'll give that 9 out of 10 as well. It's really up there. It really does feel special.
Yes.
But I'm also interested, I know Chardonnays don't age, but also love the aged Chardonnay as well. I'm interested to see how this would also develop as well. Give it a bit more age, give it even more round, a bit more complexity to it as well. It's
still different to other cool climate Chardonnays that I've had, because other cool climate Chardonnays haven't had the power that's kind of driving through with this. Yeah. The influence of the granite, does that have any influence around what flavors we're having or the minerality in any way?
I think it does give that kind of that melon citrusy type of fruit.
Right, yeah.
Now, when I was speaking to Mark Walpole from Fighting Gully Road, says that like with the kind of great granite-based ones, you don't have to do much with it in terms of winemaking. It's already there. It's already perfumed. And it's really just trying to bring that out. So I think that's there, but it says it's minimal intervention. It does use a bit more in terms of lees contact as well, barrel ferment, full malo as well. So it's just a bit funky, but creamy as well.
I want more. Yeah. I'm very upset that I didn't go. I've got a lot of FOMO. 6 hours, it's not that far.
It's not that far, seriously. It's less than a sleep for you, right? Okay, let's move over to the Fighting Gully Road. You can try that while I tell you a bit more about it.
Let me put it on screen. So 2019 Fighting Gully Sanjo. It's a Longa Sangiovese.
Okay. I'll let you try that and I'll tell you a bit more about Fighting Gully Road. So Fighting Gully Road, as the name suggests, it's actually based on the road called Fighting Gully. In terms of, that's where the vines are, but in terms of where the winery is and where the wine's made, it's located at an abandoned lunatic asylum in Beechworth.
Okay. So it's special. Yeah.
It's special. And to that point, the wines are crazy good. Do you see what I did there? So Mark Walpole's the winemaker. As I say before, he's salt of the earth guy. He's a one-man band, does everything. I call them. It's he that picks up. I email them. It's he that responds. The tasting was him. Who does the winemaking? Him. Who's on the vineyards? It's him. So I don't know how he does it.
One-man band.
And then I go off to the IGA as well. Then I see him there at the IGA doing the shopping as well. So I don't know how he does it.
There wasn't a big workforce behind him.
No, there wasn't.
Him on his own.
I didn't see anyone else. It was just him there.
What a legend.
So it's amazing how he gets to do everything and still create such spectacular wines as well. So he's really passionate about the wine. So I think we must have spent like an hour there talking to him about the area, the wines, the soils, and just Beechworth in general as well. He was talking about, he had an old photo of Beechworth in the 1800s, and he's trying to recreate the vines and the type of grape varieties from what he saw in that photograph. So it has that kind of connection towards history.
Yeah.
And even as you kind of look about Beechworth, you see he's also taking these photos of how the fog comes over Beechworth and how it's that kind of fog and cool climate area, and it has a really kind of passion, interest in what Beechworth has to offer as well. So, and that really comes across in the wines. So, as mentioned, in terms of the soils that he's based on is the clay rock soils, is more of a slant towards the Italian varietals. Then the one we're having today is Sangiovese, and he loves Sangiovese to the point where his number plate on his car is Sangio.
Okay, that proves he really loves it. Yeah.
And the interesting thing with this Sangiovese as well is that he did a trip to Italy. I don't know when, probably a good few years ago, and he became mates with this chap by the name of Paolo De Marchi, and he basically owns Isole e Olena. Which is what we had in the Chianti episode.
Yes.
Which is what you also gave 9 out of 10 for as well. So he took cuttings from that vineyard, brought it across to then create these Sangiovese.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Yeah. So today we're going to have the La Longa 2019. The grapes. So actually, before I get to the grapes, so why it is called La Longa means it's long aging for 36 months. So 1 year small barrel, 1 year large barrel, and then 1 year in bottle. So they say it's kind of a bit like a Chianti Superiore in terms of 36-month aging to give a bit more body, texture, complexity to it. Yep. But you've had a bit. What are you thinking about it at the moment?
I've had a bit, and when we opened it up, which was about 30 minutes ago, I also tasted it, and I'm just comparing the two experiences. When we just opened it up, it was quite herby, quite spicy, really strong flavors coming through. But in that half hour, it's really softened up. And I don't know if this is the word for Beechworth, but balanced and integrated again is what's coming through. There's kind of like that cherry flavor. There's a hint of spice.
I know, it just comes across.
Yeah. But they all work well together. They're not fighting over each other.
Yeah, I love that. It's like this kind of dark cherry, but with a kind of like a vanilla paste type of thing kind of coming through as well. It's very, I don't know, sumptuous and rounded. So, you shouldn't get kind of flavors around, it's just like, I think Huon Hook did a kind of review on this one and talked about how it went from chocolate and vanilla to kind of stone, earthy, iron and mineral going forward. Intense, compact, focused, long length, and more of a savory style of Sangiovese. So I don't know whether you're kind of picking that up as well. And
I think the savory style is there. I think the acidity is kind of making me want to have more in terms of the saliva.
Those tannins are beautiful as well. tight, compact, smooth.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I'm thinking about Beechworth, and I'm curious. Are these two representations the top tier of Beechworth, or is it?
Oh, pretty good tier.
Yeah,
pretty good tier. But but I would say a lot of the wineries there are pretty good. Like,
yeah,
on average in terms of how they kind of scale. You know, I think they're above average in general.
I completely agree. Like, if I was to go to Corkscrews, I don't know if we're jumping straight there, but I'd give that a 9 out of 10 as well. Both of them are amazingly well balanced and integrated, and both complex in their different ways. Yeah. What about you?
I think, jeez. I think it's up there as well. 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
9 out of 10. It's hard to push that 10 out of 10, but it's pretty close to it. It's close to it. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. How long would this sell for, the Sanjo?
Oh, I think
another 5, or?
I reckon was it 2019? I reckon you still keep it for another 10 years. It's fine, you know.
Yeah, it'd be great to see it after that.
Yeah, because it's already done 3 years and it's still quite alive, fresh, and I don't know. I can just think it's a bit more of those kind of tertiary will come through with age, but I think it's still got enough body and grunt to kind of let it kind of go through, but it's just still so balanced and smooth at the moment and integrated.
Are they still available online? I think I need to buy a couple.
I don't know. I know they're hard to get, but
yeah,
I know. Bring along a little special treat for you today.
That's great. Well, thanks for introducing me to Beechworth. I think it's answered the question, is it worth the hype? Based on these two, yeah, absolutely. 9 out of 10. Did you have any last closing statements?
No, I'll just say, you know, Beechworth, it's great for the family. It's great just to visit, even if you don't like wines. But the wines are also spectacular as well. Unpretentious, warm, great food, great cafes.
Yeah.
You know, great everything. So I'll be back again, definitely.
Yeah, take me with you. For anyone in the community that's tried Beechworth wines, let us know in the comment below. We're keen to hear what other experiences anyone has had there. But thank you, Trent, for the introduction to Beechworth. I'll be looking to buy more. As we say here, drink more, try more, learn more. Thanks all.